Do you want to learn how to put a whitetail deer great one in your lodge very easily without finding like 100 zones in Reventually or spending hundreds of hours finding all your zones in Layton? Well, I'm here to tell you guys that there's a new method out there that really not enough people are talking about and not enough people realize, and I'm kind of late to the party to make a video on this, but I haven't really seen any other videos out there on this. And honestly, I think that's because of the mule deer grind here in a ski ridge, but the whitetail grind in a ski ridge is worth it. In fact, it's the easiest way to spawn a whitetail great one. It has the lowest amount of zones, the map is the most wide open compared to the other two. Basically, I mean, Reventully's lakes are probably more wide open, but the lakes are so huge that it takes you forever to find the 72 drink zones that are in that map. So yeah, if you couldn't have guessed, today I'm going to be teaching you guys in the simplest way possible. So simple that anybody can understand. That's what I'm known for here on YouTube, is simple. Extreme easiness in my Great One guides, or just general guides here in the Hunter Call of the Wild on YouTube. I'm going to be teaching you guys exactly everything you need to know in two different ways, herd management or no herd management. It doesn't matter whether or not you want to use herd management or not. That's totally up to you. How to put that whitetail deer great one in your trophy lodge. If you guys do end up enjoying today's video or find it helpful in any way, shape, or form, please help me out down below by hitting the like button, as it is very, very much appreciated, and it gets the videos pushed to more people, and frankly allows me to help more people just like yourself. Also, if you have a friend that's struggling to do the whitetail grind either in Layton or Reventully, definitely send them this video, as it could change their entire life quite literally. Okay, so whether or not you're using herd management, the very first thing that you guys are going to want to do is go ahead and find at least the vast majority of your drink zones. Now, whitetail drink from 8 until 12, I do believe that's their universal drink time. In Rancho, it might be from 8 until 10, but the grind in Rancho is just absolutely terrible, and I would never suggest doing the whitetail grind in that map. Extremely thick, uneven terrain, terrible for placing down tents. It's just overall a horrible experience. I would never suggest it. So what I would suggest that you do, I'm going to share with you a hotspot map here in just a second. What I would suggest that you do is set it to about 10:30 and run every single highlighted area on the hotspot map on screen for you guys right now. Now, you are going to need to run these highlighted areas several times, because you might find a zone one day and then a couple days later you can come back and find two more in a spot that you ran through and originally seen nothing at. That's how the game is. In order to find all of your drink zones, you're going to need to run these areas a couple times each. And the reason that we want to find all of our drink zones is to get consistent respawns. Now, if you don't know what consistent respawns are, let me explain it to you. As you guys just seen, I just shot a level 2 out of this zone here. I do not have all of my drink zones discovered. I'm still in the process of doing that for Alberta. So what's going to happen is this whitetail buck that I just shot out of this zone is going to respawn somewhere completely random in the highlighted areas that their zones can potentially spawn at. And the reason for that is because I do not have all of my drink zones discovered. Now, if I were to have all of my drink zones discovered, or at least the vast majority of them, that level 2 buck that I shot out of this individual zone here will respawn into that individual zone that I shot it from. And that is what we call consistent respawns. So respawns into the same zone that you shot your deer out of. I've found with about 50% of my drink zones discovered, I can get relatively consistent respawns, but mind you this, I discovered 11 zones in my Great One Wolf grind. 11 zones. I didn't even find all of my zones. Didn't use any herd management, and my respawns are still consistent over 4,000 kills later. I've spawned 3 Great Ones and a super rare. So I really personally don't believe that it's, as important as people say it is, but from grind to grind it definitely does vary, and with the whitetail grind I've noticed, at least in Reventully, it is very, very important. I have about 55 out of the 75 zones over in Reventully, and my respawns have been relatively consistent. So you're probably wondering, Squid, how do I know if I have all of my drink zones or not? Remember what I just explained to you about getting consistent respawns? Pick a random zone with a random buck in it, shoot that buck, leave the game, come back in, and if there's a new buck at that zone, then you have enough drink zones. You can try this at any point when you're discovering drink zones. I'd recommend that you try it in several zones, because even when you have all your drink zones discovered, sometimes bucks can jump from zone to zone, it just happens. And if you're happy with your respawns, you probably don't need any more zones. But realistically, I would always suggest that you find all of them if you want like a diamond every rotation, if you're going to go heavy with your herd management. That is, if you're going to use herd management, because every zone that you don't find is an undiscovered buck. And obviously with undiscovered bucks, there can be anything. There can be diamonds, there can just be big shooters in general. So yeah, if you're not using herd management, it's not that big of a deal. You just want to find zones up until you get consistent respawns. But if you are using HM, you do have to find every single drink zone. And as for finding your drink zones, we'll leave it at that. Look at this buck here, that's crazy. 171.71. Okay, so as for setting up here in a ski ridge, this map actually makes it very, very simple. It's very, very simple in the sense of explaining herd management here too. And the reason for that is because if you've ever followed any of my Great One guides, or frankly any Great One guide on YouTube, 99% of the time what we'll tell you guys is you need 8 main zones. Now most of the time people will just say main zones and just expect you to know what that is. So before I talk about setting up and whatnot, I'm going to explain to you what main zones are and what exterior zones are in an extremely simple way. So obviously with any grind you're going to be setting up with tents and tripods, but what main zones are simply just the zones that you're set up on, the zones that you're set up with tents and tripods on, like this zone for my mule deer grind here. Like I said, we're going to talk about setup in a minute, just ignore that for now. But main zones are simply just a quick name, I guess, that people have given for the zones that you're set up on. And I guess the reason that we call them main zones is because once you herd manage, or if you're not herd managing, once you get set up, those are your main zones. Those are the zones you're going to be doing your grind off of. The rest of the zones serve no purpose, unless you're herd managing, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And we always suggest that you have exactly 8 main zones. You should be set up on exactly 8 zones. And obviously this is going to require 8 tents, 8 tripods, and 8 claim tents. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. So that is why you need 16 tents and 8 tripods. Your exterior zones are simply every other zone on the map that you're not set up at. It's that simple. Your main 8 zones are the 8 zones that you're set up at. Your exterior zones are every other zone on the map. And the good thing for doing the grind here in a ski ridge, it's crazy, is there's exactly 8 lakes where whitetail deer can drink at. I'll overlay the hotspot map one more time so you guys can see that. And if you count them out, there's exactly 8 lakes where you will find whitetail deer drinking. And the good thing is we can use all 8 of those lakes as our 8 main zones. And this makes herd management extremely easy for this map, because realistically the only thing that you're going to need to manage is the river. And the bottom half really isn't that bad. It looks like it's the whole bottom river, but realistically it's just one side of it. And the kind of middle portion of that bottom river, it looks like it's on both sides, but that's simply because the river's like 3 feet wide. And then down there at the end, when you get kind of more towards beaver territory, as you can see it widens up again, and they're only on the northernmost part of the river. That's all you're going to need to check. The zones will not spawn on the southernmost side. So herd management or no herd management, I'm going to teach you guys exactly everything you need to know to get set up for the whitetail grind here in a ski ridge. If none of this is making sense to you so far, don't click off, just give me a chance. I know it's kind of complicated, but trust me when I say it's one of those things that are so easy, it's complicated. Okay, so again, whether or not you're using herd management, HM doesn't even play a part in this guide yet. What I would suggest that you do is go ahead and look at all of those 8 lakes that have an outpost near them. Like this lake here. My tripod is only roughly 240 meters from this outpost, which works out very, very well because I don't have to use a tent to fast travel here, and that saves me a tent for later. So if you can find one of those 8 lakes that have an outpost near them, and I'll tell you right now, there's several on this map, so I'd strongly suggest just taking a look at those 8 lakes that I highlighted for you. And if you can find one of those lakes with an outpost near them, do not worry about placing a tent at that lake, just place the tripod. Now here's the whitetail zone that I'm shooting. We're going to talk about where to place the tripod once I actually get to it. Alright, here come the deer. So what you guys are going to want to do is go ahead and spot the deer. And then once you do spot them, drop a waypoint on this little green animal thing here that shows you exactly where they're standing, or you can just roughly mark their drink zone, that's up to you. And you're going to want to place your tripod a minimum of 164 meters from where they're drinking at. As you can see, my tripod's at about 185. The reason that you want it over 164 is because, as you can see, he's actually exactly 139. He's gone attentive. And that's because he can hear me, as at 164 meters, they'll start to be able to hear you. And obviously you want to be able to run from your fast travel point, whether that be an outpost that you use because it was close to one of the lakes like I just explained to you, or a tent. You want to be able to run from your fast travel point into your tripod. If you have to go prone or if you have to crouch just so that way they don't spook, it can take up 5 to 10 minutes of walk time per run. And that 5 to 10 minutes over 10 rotations can be 50 minutes to an hour. It adds up quick, my friends. An hour of shooting wasted. So that's why you want your tripod at least 164 meters from the zone. Other than that, you can have it further, you can have it a tiny bit closer, but like I said, at 164 meters, that's exactly when they start to hear you. And then after that point, what you can do is you can go ahead and head over to exactly where they're drinking at. So I just dropped a waypoint on them. And what we're going to do over here is we're going to place down what we call a claim tent. Now a claim tent is just simply a tent that you place on top of where they're drinking at. And the reason that we do this is so that way once you finish shooting the zone out of your tripod, you don't have to run all the way over here. As I mentioned, these little runs like this add up so much over time, it will save you hours having a claim tent, so that way you can just simply fast travel on top of the zone and pick up the harvests, instead of running all the way over here picking up the harvests and then moving on. Now I can't place down any more tents because I have 16 tents placed for my mule deer grind, but I knew I had to give you guys this example, so let's just pretend like Squid placed one, right? Alright guys, and then last but not least for getting set up, we are going to use this zone as an example one more time. They're not there right now because obviously we spooked them, but as you can see, out there is where they were drinking at. You're probably wondering at this point for getting set up, what if there isn't an outpost to use? And well, that's when we use what's called a fast travel tent. It's simply just a tent that you fast travel into, that you use to run into your tripod and shoot your zone. People get confused with all these names we give things, so maybe I should just kind of be more simple about it, but I'm sorry. It's just muscle memory from all the years of saying it. But realistically, it is helpful to differentiate the two different types of tents. A fast travel tent that you use to fast travel to the zone, and then a claim tent that you use to claim your harvests. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So what you're going to want to do to place down the tent that you're fast traveling into, or your fast travel tent, is go ahead and drop a waypoint on the zone. As you can see, we can barely see it because the snow's so bright, but we're roughly 288 meters. If I go like this, it'll show you 275 meters roughly from the whitetail deer drink zone. Now, for your fast travel tents or the tent that you're fast traveling into, to shoot your zone, you want your tent to be at least 250 meters from the zone. Obviously, right now we're about 275, so this would be the perfect place to place the zone. Now, if you're somewhere around 240, 230, that does work too, but around 220 meters, the animals will hear you fast travel into the tent, and they'll spook before you even spawn it. Outposts are very, very helpful because, like I said, it saves you tents. As there is a 16 tent limit on each map, the game will not let you place any more than 16 tents, so you do need to use them wisely, and for your main zones, I would never suggest more than 2 tents. You really don't need one. Quick recap here, a tent to fast travel into, 250 meters at a minimum, or at least preferably 250 meters if you need to get it closer. 240, 230 is an option too, but 230 they'll start to hear you. So I'd always recommend at least 250 away. That's the tent you're going to fast travel into and run to your tripod. You want your tripod at least 164 meters from the drink zone that you're shooting. Shoot your animals, and then from that point you'll use your claim tent, or the tent that's placed on top of the drink zone that you're shooting, to fast travel over there, claim your harvests, and move on to another zone. That is setting up for pretty much any Great One grind in the game. And if you're using an outpost, and that outpost is close to the lake, it really doesn't matter how close or how far away it is unless it's like right up against the lake. Then they might spook when you spawn in, so in that case, I'd just recommend running in a different direction and placing the tent 250 meters at a minimum from the drink zone, and set up normally from that point on with your tripod and your claim tent. And from this point, if you're not using herd management, if you have all your drink zones discovered, or like I said, at least the vast majority of them, if you're set up, you can just start blasting away, my friends. All you need to do is shoot males. Mind you, if you're not using herd management, you're not going to get diamonds every 10 seconds. Your rares aren't going to be as big. Your bucks in general are just going to be smaller from zone to zone, and that's okay. Some of my least favorite grinds are the grinds where I shoot a diamond every 10 seconds just because it's, you know, it just gets boring after a while. Like if I find a diamond fallow deer in multiplayer, I won't even tax it because I have hundreds of them from my grind. And I probably shouldn't say every 10 seconds, but if you herd manage enough, I can get 3 diamond fallow deer per rotation on average. 3. That's insane, man. But for grinds like my bear grind, it could be 150, 200 kills before I spawn a diamond. Now, sometimes I will spawn 3 or 4 in a row, but it's all just pure RNG, or random number generation. It's like playing the lottery. And when you're not using herd management, I feel like in my personal opinion, it's just much more rewarding to find a diamond. So yeah, that's the way I see it. Like I said, if you're not using HM for this grind, you can simply just start rotating between those 8 lakes. And if you are using herd management, we're going to talk about what you need to shoot and what you need to leave, when and where, right now. Okay, so for my people that are using herd management, thankfully a ski ridge makes this very, very organized and very, very easy for us. Compared to other maps like Layton, where it's extremely unorganized. Yes, they are all on the left-hand side of the map, but so many nooks and crannies and so many zones that you need to shoot down. Thankfully for us, here in a ski ridge, it's not bad at all. Those 8 lakes that you guys should be set up on, or your quote, main zones. In those zones, obviously those are going to be your main zones throughout your grind, the zones that you're rotating off of, however you want to say it, you shoot every single buck out of those zones. And you should do that a lot even while you're herd managing. And then the zones that you're going to manage down is very, very easy to understand in a ski ridge. The river, and you're done. It's that simple. The highlighted river on the hotspot map is all you need to herd manage. Yes, it does seem like a lot, but there's probably, I'd say probably 20, maybe 30 zones at most. Yes, the majority of the population is on this river, but you don't need to shoot all of them down. You don't need to go shout out I buy premiums level herd management. A diamond every 10 seconds. If you want to, go for it. But don't, go down to the comment section complaining, I can't do this. It's gonna take so long. Not everyone has thousands of hours. I understand that. You don't need to log thousands of hours, and you don't need to herd manage that heavily. Herd management does not increase the spawn rate of great ones, period, in any way, shape, or form, in my personal opinion. It just changes where your animals spawn, thus forcing all of the big respawns on your map that would be there anyways, so that way the population balances itself out into the 8 main zones that you're set up on. Hence the name herd management. I've had a 2-kill wolf grind with no herd management, 2 kills, and I've had an 8,300 kill fallow deer grind with extreme herd management. 1 if not several diamonds every single rotation. Now, to herd manage the river here in a ski ridge, what you're going to want to shoot is the level 2s and above. So level 2s, and obviously level 3s, which would be diamonds for the whitetail. You want to leave the level 1s. Females play no part in this grind. At any point in time, you should never shoot a female, but there is a specific level 2 that you're going to want to leave, and I have to find one to show you what it looks like. And while I'm looking for one, I might as well tell you what a herd managed or shot down zone looks like. A herd managed zone is a zone with only level 1s or level 2s that have the level 1 rack in them, and that level 2 that has the level 1 rack is what I'm looking for right now. I'm going to show you an example in-game, so that way you guys don't go freaking out on me. If you have a good level 2 buck, maybe the estimate goes up to like 215 or something, that's obviously a shooter, and then the rest of the zone is maybe a couple level 1s and a small level 2, then that is not a shot down zone. That level 2 that has the good rack, probably up to 215 or something, is definitely a shooter. You want to shoot that, and shoot its respawn until it comes back as a non-shooter buck. Now again, I'm going to say this one more time. Shooter bucks are big level 2s and level 3s. Bucks that you leave are level 1s and small level 2s. Now there's a very, very specific rack for the small level 2s that you're going to need to leave. Once you see it, you literally can't unsee it. It literally just looks like a level 1, but it's a level 2. That's the best way I can describe it. Now a mistake that I see quite consistently is people will leave the small animals in their 8 main zones that they're set up at by accident. Again, in the 8 main zones that you're set up at, I taught you guys how to set up at them earlier, remember? You're going to want to shoot every single male that spawns in. And the reason for this is because those are the zones you're grinding off of. Those are the zones you want to shoot all of your males from. You realistically want to avoid shooting males anywhere else on your map, because every single time you shoot a male somewhere else on your map, that's a chance a great one can spawn in a zone that you're not set up on, and the chances of you seeing it aren't as high. Unless you're going to every other zone on your map consistently, which obviously you probably aren't. Now, a little tip when you're trying to get your exterior zones, or the zones that you're not set up at, herd managed, if you spawn a diamond in your 8 main zones that you're set up on, which you will, and that's another reason why I would suggest, rotating through those zones, shooting every male that you see, even before you've ever even shot a single buck in an exterior in the process of herd managing. I would still suggest doing at least a couple rotations a day through your 8 main zones, because if you do spawn a diamond in your 8 main zones, what you're going to want to do is leave it there. You're going to want to stack that diamond, as we call it. And you're going to want to do this for 4 or 5 diamonds. This is why sometimes I'll tell people you should spawn 4 or 5 diamonds before you even begin herd managing. And in the process of spawning those 4 or 5 diamonds, you're also having a chance of a great one spawning every single time you shoot and claim a male. Like I said, HM is not required to spawn a great one. And having those 4 or 5, as many as you want really, diamonds stacked in the zones that you're set up on, will make it so that way your game force spawns more small animals. More small whitetail bucks specifically, and that's just because the game's trying to balance itself out. It senses there's a lot of max level animals on the map, so therefore it's going to force spawn more small ones to balance the population out. That's the reason why diamonds are so rare. There's always going to be more small animals than big animals. And you want this to happen. You want the game to force spawn more small bucks, because when you're shooting down the river, you want those bucks to respawn small as non-shooter bucks, those level 1s and those small rack level 2s, which I'm still yet to find. And even though that yes, having those diamonds in your main zones is going to make a lot of small deer spawn into your main zones while they're on your map, having those diamonds in your main zones, you can frankly take the focus off of those zones, and you can work on the river specifically. I'd suggest that you just kind of bounce around, jump to this outpost, maybe run to somewhere's right here, jump to this outpost, maybe run around here, shoot every single shooter buck that you can find, and having those diamonds in your main zones will drastically increase the chances of those shooter bucks that you're shooting on the river coming back as a level 1 or a small 2, which is obviously the goal when herd managing. And then once at least the vast majority of those zones on the river are shot down, like I said, you don't need to go iBuyPremium's level, shout out that dude's a goat. You can simply just go through your main zones, kill all those diamonds that you have stacked, and you can start shooting those diamonds as they come. And what that should do is it should drastically increase the largeness of all the males that are going to spawn in the zones that you're set up on. That is herd management in a nutshell. That's the goal. Zones that you're not set up on, small bucks. Zones that you are set up on, big bucks. So I hope that helps you guys who are herd managing. Now these 2 bucks out in front of us are definitely both shooters. Neither of these have that level 2 rack that I was talking about. As you can see, this one goes up to 197. This one right here goes up to 198. It's got a little bit of a better frame on him. So we're going to go ahead and knock both of these guys out here. They are in exterior zones. I'm here on the river, obviously. And this is literally what you're doing. You're just running around, up and down the river, however you want to do it, and shooting any shooter buck that you can possibly find. Now what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to go look for one of those kind of non-shooter level 2s. I'll show you guys the trophy estimate on it. It won't be the exact same because obviously no buck has the exact same estimate. But yeah, that's definitely a decent 10 point there. He actually scored 175, so yeah, definitely a shooter buck. This guy here is a little bit nicer. He scored 196. It's almost a 200-inch whitetail. That's definitely a shooter. Okay guys, I actually managed to find one at one of my main zones. Now because this is one of my main zones, I am just going to shoot every buck here, but this is the perfect example. As you can see, look at this level 1 here. Yes, his estimate is a bit smaller, but as you can see, let me look at him through the scope, maybe that'll be a better look. He's got that kind of really wide set, almost like spike horn, solid, I think it's a 6 point. But he's super flat and super horizontal. And as you can see, we come looking down here, this actually looks like a little bit of a nicer level 1. Oh, that's actually a level 2. What do you know? And he's got pretty much that same rack, just a bit bigger. That's that rack I was talking about. And there's his estimate. Most of the time, they go up into the 170s. So if you see a level 2 with a max estimate of roughly 175, could be 178 like on this guy. I've never seen one go up into 180, at least not that I remember, but I really haven't paid much attention because it's mainly just a visual thing. I mean, these racks look identical, one's just a little bit chunkier, a little bit bigger, a little bit wider in general, just because of the fact he's a level 2. So if this were a zone on the river, I would leave these 2 bucks. This is a perfect example of a shot down zone. This is what your zone should look like once it's herd managed. Small, non-shooter bucks. Now if this level 2 here was up to 200 and something, he had a way better frame on him, maybe a 12 point, something like that, obviously he would definitely be a shooter. But because this is one of the main 8 zones that I'm set up on, both of these bucks do need to die. So we're gonna go ahead and shoot both of them. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for the whitetail grind. Solo zones thankfully do not exist for whitetail deer, so you don't have to worry about them. I explained herd management, I explained how to get set up, I explained where to set up, how to find your drink zones. And congratulations, you made it to the end of this guide. I strongly believe, and I'm sure because I have friends that have done this grind in a ski ridge, that this is the new easiest way to grind the whitetail. The only sacrifice that you might be taking is obviously you're going to need to use your tents for your whitetail grind and not your mule deer grind. I will never take down my mule deer grind. I have a whitetail grind set up and herd managed mediumly over in Reventuli Coast, so that's where I'll be for the whitetail. In fact, I actually gave Kendall Gray one of my Great One whitetails. I'd suggest that you go check out that video. I'll leave the link to it in the video description below. Hey guys, if you did in fact enjoy today's upload, please let me know down below by smashing that like button and subscribing, as it is very, very much appreciated, and it does help out a ton with the YouTube algorithms. My goal by the end of 2025 was 10K, and as of December 19th, we dang near broke 20K. We're about to break 18,000 subscribers right now. Thank you guys all so much for that. We most definitely exceeded the goal, I'd say. So for that, I deeply, deeply thank you guys. As always, my name is Squid, you're watching Squidster Outdoors, and we'll catch you guys in the next banger. Peace out, my gamers.